Micah Parsons did not report for the first week of OTAs. He's going to be there in the second week. Okay, I get it. He's training individually. That's the reason why he's not at these OTAs. I get it. I understand it. But at the same time, if you're going to come out and tell the fans that this team needs better leaders on the team, don't also, in the same instance, not show up to the first day of OTAs. I don't like that at all. What is the difference between you training individually that extra week? What is that going to do? And being there at OTAs, I think you're going to have a greater impact if you show up for the first day of OTAs. And here's the thing. Let me just start off by saying this. There is a difference between being the best player and being the leader. Okay? Micah Parsons, to me, is not a leader, but he is, from a talent perspective, the best player on this football team. I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that. If you just want to be a great player, go be a great player. You don't need to be a leader. There are other players on this team that can be leaders. DeMarcus Lawrence can be a leader. Trayvon Diggs can be a leader. Okay? Donovan Wilson is a guy who could be a leader, even though, he seems a little more quiet, but the way he plays, guys can get behind that, right? You don't need to go out there and be a rah-rah type of leader. And if you don't want to fulfill that role, that's fine. But don't sit up there on your podcast and say that this team needs better leaders and saying that you want to take more responsibility as a leader on this team and then not show up for the first day of OTAs when you're installing a new defense. And also, there are a lot of people missing this practice on the defense. There's a lot of people out for OTAs on the defense because they're injured or they didn't attend or whatever it may be. Okay? You need to be there. I don't like this one bit. I don't like it at all. There are other players that train individually as well. And this is where I come from when I criticize Micah Parsons, right? There are some things that he does that rubs me the wrong way. And I feel like when somebody like me says that, people come out and say, oh, well, you're just being a shill for the front office. You're just perpetuating their narrative about Micah Parsons not being a grown-up and that he has to mature. And all. Like, no, I'm not saying that, okay? I believe in Micah Parsons. I am a fan of Micah Parsons. But at the same time, there's some things that rub me the wrong way. When we talk about the situation with Skip Bayless, right? I don't like Skip Bayless either, okay? But I'm also somebody that if I make an obligation to somebody and I agree to something, I'm going to fulfill that obligation. And when he came out and said after, he decided to flake on Undisputed, he said during his availability with the press, he said, hey, the reason why I did it is because, Dak got hurt and we needed a leader in the locker room. Okay, which is kind of funny because he wasn't at the first week of OTAs, but I mean, it is what it is. But he comes out and says, we need a leader. Dak's not around. Okay. I have love for Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. That's what he said. And then he came out a year and a half later when Skip Bayless criticized him for his playoff performance. And he said, this is the reason why I didn't do your show because I don't rock with you. He used another word, but he said, I don't rock with you, right? Okay, so you lied twice in that interview when you said you didn't do Undisputed because you wanted to be a better leader. You literally said, I didn't do Undisputed because I didn't rock with you. That's what you said a year and a half later. So you said that you rocked with Skip and Shannon in that interview. That's a lie. And you said you didn't do it because you wanted to be a better leader in the locker room. Well, it looks like that's a lie. So you got caught in a lie twice. That rubs me the wrong way. And I get it. It's Skip Bayless. It's funny. He flaked on Skip Bayless. F Skip Bayless. I don't look at it like that. You make an obligation, you fulfill that obligation. Okay? I'm not a 13-year-old kid who doesn't have morals. All right? I'm a 27-year-old man who has a job, who has a whole retirement plan, who understands that if I make an obligation, I have to fulfill that obligation, especially when it's a professional obligation. Okay? I mean, look, it would have been, what, a 10-minute spot? You don't have 10 minutes of your day to go do it? I don't understand. Or just don't make the obligation in the first place. Yeah, that is what it is. But then, like, he goes out a year later. No, I'm sorry, not a year later. He goes on his podcast after the Green Bay game, and he says, oh, well, I mean, there's personnel packages where I play linebacker. They just weren't called. Put that where you want to put it. Those were his words. Put that where you want to put it. Okay, so the personnel packages weren't called. Who's that on? That's on the play caller. But, oh, wait, like a week and a half later, or a week and a half earlier, you said, oh, well, wherever Dan Quinn goes, I might follow him because you had that much respect for Dan Quinn. And then a week and a half later, you're saying, oh, well, the personnel packages didn't get called. So that's the reason why, put that where you want to put it. Okay, so I'm going to put that on your play caller. That rubbed me the wrong way. Him not taking media availability after the Giants game where he doesn't record a single stat, even though the defense played at a really high level that game, that rubs me the wrong way. And I'm sorry, like, I'm allowed to feel like this, while also saying, like, I'm not a front office shill, but some of the people within the organization that have questions about Micah Parsons' maturity, I'm not going to sit up here and say that they're wrong for thinking that. It is what it is. He needs to grow up. And again, I'm going to say this again. You don't have to be a shill for the front office to see this. I'm critical of the front office. I give the front office their credit when I think it's due, but I'm criticizing them about all these negotiations that they're failing on right now. But I think they're right in this certain instance. Micah Parsons needs to grow up a little bit. He needs, if he's going to say that he wants to be a better leader, again, that's fine. Go be a better leader. But if you're not going to fulfill that promise of being a better leader, then don't go out and say that. Don't go out and say that. I mean, look, maybe people have to go through the interviews to, see this with certain players. How many times have players come out and said, oh man, Micah's a great leader, man? I don't hear that. I hear it about Dak all the time, but I don't hear it about Micah. Maybe people are saying that. Maybe players on the team are saying that Micah Parsons is a great leader. But when they talk about Micah Parsons, they're usually talking about his talent. And this is one thing that I want people to understand. When I criticize Micah Parsons for and not just me, but bigger personalities in general, like when they criticize Micah Parsons, it's a compliment to him. And this is what I mean by that. Micah Parsons is in rarefied air. He is a transcendent talent, but he's not a transcendent player. He didn't make first team all pro this year. Okay. Transcendent players make first team all pro. Myles Garrett is always making first team all pro. But I would say this, Micah Parsons is a more talented overall football player than Myles Garrett. But he's not making first team all pros like Myles Garrett. He's not winning defensive player of the year like a Nick Bosa, even though he's more talented than Nick Bosa. Like, when I criticize Micah Parsons, it's not because I don't think he's great. I think he's great. I think he's the most talented football player in the NFL. I think he's one of the most talented defensive players that have ever played the game. So when I'm criticizing him, I'm literally giving him the props for his talent. When I saw him his rookie season and I saw him go up to Kansas City and take over that game, the offense did not play well that game, but Micah Parsons was the reason why that team was in the game, because he took over the game. I gave him props for that. I saw a player that I said, man, this guy could be the best player in the NFL one day, but he's not that right now. He's not the best player in the NFL. And the fact that I think that he's gotten worse year after year after year, I'm not saying that he's bad by any means, but I'm just saying when you look at Micah Parsons' 3 seasons, you're not telling me that his rookie season wasn't his best season. He did not build upon that. He did not improve from that rookie season. Or at least Dan Quinn didn't use him properly to the point where it's like, all right, we're going to use you as a chess piece like we did your rookie season. He didn't do that. But again, I'm not going to blame Dan Quinn for everything with this defense and everything with Micah Parsons. Like, he has to take accountability as well. Okay? Like, when I see here's the thing. When I see certain people with the type of talent that Micah Parsons possesses, transcendent talent, I'm going to be more critical to them if they're not living up to that potential, right? People say this on my TikTok page. You're always making excuses for Dak. It's funny how you criticize Micah more than you criticize Dak. Dak Prescott was a 4th round pick. Talent-wise, there is a ceiling for Dak Prescott that he has reached. And not only reached the ceiling, he has raised his ceiling. He's getting everything out of his talent that he can. Okay? Dak Prescott is not nearly as talented as Micah Parsons. CeeDee Lamb, another guy. I give him all the props in the world because he is raising his ceiling. Tyler Smith, he's raising his ceiling. These guys are raising their ceilings. Trayvon Diggs, they're raising their ceilings. Micah Parsons is not hitting his ceiling. Micah Parsons should be the best defensive player in football. He should be looked at as the second best player in football outside of Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes has a Super Bowl, has all the Super Bowls. He should be a perennial first-team All-Pro guy. He should be a guy that we look at and say, okay, he's one of the best defensive players to ever play the game, not just an elite player within his era, which right now he is an elite player within his era. That's great. I like that. I love that. I love having elite players on my football team. But when you're not reaching your ceiling, I'm going to criticize you for it, right? You know, and it's not just in football. There's other sports where guys are not hitting their ceilings. Ben Simmons had a tremendous ceiling. Even when he was playing good basketball, I still criticize him because I'm like, you're way more talented than what you're showing. Now, obviously, we ended up seeing what Ben Simmons was. Like in the music industry, Chris Brown. Chris Brown to me is as talented as Michael Jackson was, but he's not nearly the artist that Michael Jackson was. He did not reach that ceiling that he had. I just think as an overall performer, Chris Brown is a better overall performer than Michael Jackson. But Michael Jackson worked his tail off, which is why he's regarded as a way better artist. So when I have that type of view of you and you don't reach that type of ceiling, I'm going to criticize you for underachieving, even though still acknowledging, hey, you're great at what you do. You're elite. You're one of the best at what you do. But at the same time, you can be even better. Why strive to just be elite within your era? Strive to be an elite all-time player, which is what Micah Parsons is. He's one of the most talented defensive players that the league's ever seen. You can make an argument that he is the most talented defensive player that the league has ever seen. Just pure talent. I mean, this guy came in from Penn State not playing a year. I think it was his senior year. He didn't play his senior year, and he came into the league being one of the best pass rushers in the league, even though he wasn't that in college. He didn't play defensive end in college. I know he played it in high school, but he didn't play it in college. He was an off-ball linebacker, and he came in the league and rookie season, one of the best pass rushers in the game. To me, should have won defensive player of the year his rookie season because of how much he elevated that defense. So this is not me saying Micah Parsons isn't that good. No, he's great. He's exceptional, but he's not reaching the type of caliber of player that he can be. And that's where I criticize him. That's why I hold him to a very high standard. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. I'm not going to lower my expectation for a guy when I see the type of talent that Micah Parsons possesses. That is the greatest compliment you can give to somebody. Okay? So that's where I stand on the Micah Parsons side of things. He should be at OTAs. If you're going to say you want to be a better leader, then be a better leader. Be about it. Don't just talk about it.